You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.
3, 2, 1, 0.
What is up, gang? What is up? How are we feeling after all of that? Are we happy with that? Are we unhappy with that? I think we're probably going to say that we're unhappy with that. But I don't think it is the worst thing in the world. It's not certainly as bad as it seems. I don't think it's as bad as the score would indicate. But it wasn't good. I mean, I can admit that. I can admit that it wasn't good, but I think there's a lot more to what we saw tonight in that game. The game, of course, being a 6-2 loss to the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I thought that, again, I think there's a lot more to this game, and I want to get right into it because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the scoreboard because I don't think the scoreboard is necessarily the story of this game tonight. I think there's more to discuss and there's more to get into than just the score. So I'm actually going to go right into the report card. How about that? We're going to go right to the report card tonight. So, again, the report card is kind of a measuring stick that I like to use for, how do we judge this team? Given that, they're a younger team, they're rebuilding, they're working towards some other things. That is, in my opinion, just a lack of development for Montreal. We didn't play that bad considering our circumstances. I agree with you, James, completely. I agree with that completely. So there's a few things that I want to get into here quickly, but I will go over to the comments as well. Report card, obviously, they allowed more than 3 goals. They didn't score 3 goals. So, they're going to get X's on those two aspects of things. Special teams, I'm giving them a check mark. They were 1 for 2 on the power play. They killed both Vegas power plays, Vegas being one of the better power plays in the NHL. Engagement, effort, and energy. I think there's going to be some people who might disagree with me. However, I don't have an issue with the engagement, effort, and energy tonight, with the exception for about a 13-minute time period in the second period. That was really the only time I felt like they were problematic, was a period during that second period, or a time frame during that second period, where they just didn't really seem to put it all together. I'm not a huge, again, I'm not a huge guy as far as criticizing somebody's effort or pretending that I have the ability to tell whether or not somebody put in a decent effort based on what I can see from a television screen. I don't think that that's a fair way to judge hockey players, or anybody for that matter. I don't think we have the ability to make that determination based on what we can see through a TV screen. So I'm not prepared to make a judgment. I thought that, like I said, I thought they got thrown into a bit of a tilt-a-whirl a little bit in that second period, and everything kind of went badly, and they couldn't get out of it. I wouldn't have hated to see a timeout called by Marty St. Louis in an effort to try and reset. But I want to get into a couple other things here. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about the fans that were booing the Montreal Canadiens tonight. I don't know how many of you, if any of you, were at the Bell Center tonight. I assume not very many of you. But if you're at the Bell Center and you're booing tonight, I mean, pardon my language, but you're a fucking loser. like you're a loser beyond loser. You don't understand the Montreal Canadiens. You're not a hockey fan. You don't understand what's going on with this team. You don't even understand one tiny little bit about this team. And it's really what makes Montreal Canadiens fans really hard to like. It's what it's what I call the 60 percenters. It's the fans who just don't understand the game and just really are looking for a reason to try and um, you know they're just looking for a reason to be mad. You're not a real hockey fan, so again, I wanted to get that off my chest. If you were one of those people who were booing, or that you support the people who were booing the Montreal Canadiens tonight, you really don't understand anything about the sport of hockey, and you don't understand anything about the Montreal Canadiens, and you're not a real Montreal Canadiens fan. So if you have any problem with that, I'm happy to address it. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I'm happy to respond to you. But again, if you are a loser of losers, if that performance tonight was what made you decide that you were going to stand up and boo the Montreal Canadiens. I also want to say that the broadcast team on TVA Sport, like, embarrassing. Like like they literally spent all they could talk about for that entire second period was, about how Marty St. Louis needs to send a message to Kirby Dach. Oh, you need to send a message to Kirby Dach. You need to send a message to Kirby Dach. Well, okay, you think Kirby Dach doesn't know that he made a mistake? You think that Kirby Dach doesn't know that he screwed that up? You don't think that Kirby Dach is already struggling with his confidence and getting back into, you know, back to the form that he had before he was injured? Like, he knows what's going on. So what is sending a message going to do? Is it going to make you feel better? Is it gonna make Maxime Lapierre feel better? Is it gonna make, I don't even know the names of the announcers, the guys who do the play-by-play and the color commentary on TVS Ball. But like, is it gonna make them feel better if Kirby Dach gets benched? Like this whole punitive approach to coaching that everybody seems so horny to talk about. It's just it baffles me. Like what is benching Kirby Dach going to accomplish? Like, really, knowing what you know about Kirby Dach and knowing what you know about what he's going through, how is that possibly going to accomplish anything? And again, I don't expect everybody to understand that, but certainly I would expect the people who are paid, good money to report on and to be the color commentary and the play-by-play analysts for the Montreal Canadiens on one of their main networks. I expect them to know that. I expect Maxime Lapierre, a former NHL player, sort of. I expect him to know that. So when he goes on between periods and he goes up and down, Kirby Dach, and he talks about how terrible Kirby Dach is and how bad, and oh, well, we can't always use this excuse that he missed it. Okay, well, we can't use the excuse, but what are you going to do? Like, if Maxime Lapierre Maxime Lapierre wasn't even 1/10 of the hockey player that Kirby Dach is, even with Kirby Dach struggling. So again, two things. If you were at the Bell Center tonight and you were booing the Montreal Canadiens, you're a loser and you don't understand hockey. And again, you're clueless. You just don't get it. And the TVA Ball announcers are just like, again, I know that it's hard sometimes to find things to talk about, and that sometimes when something presents itself, such low hanging fruit presents itself to you, that allows you to sort of go on a bit of a rant, that allows you to sort of take up that much airtime, in a game where there's probably not a ton to talk about. I get that probably is an attractive thing because it allows you to do your job a lot easier. But maybe you should try doing a little bit better job and actually, use your intelligence and be thoughtful about what's really going on with this team, and talking about that instead of just, sitting there and, singularly focusing on one thing. So if you're over in TikTok, guys, we're not doing the TikTok live tonight. We're doing it on YouTube. We're doing Habs After Dark on YouTube. The instructions are all on the screen behind me. Come on over, get in the comments, join the chat. We got a few people in here now. Again, 6-2 Vegas over Montreal. We're going to go over a few things here quickly, but I think we're going to do more chat than we're going to do review. Just to finish up on the report card tonight, again, I'm not going to give them a check mark for playing 60 minutes. They did completely fall apart for about 13, 14 minutes in the second period. Can't give them that. So progress, I'm also giving them a failing grade. I don't think this is progress. I think we talked about, the last two games, how they were able to carry over their momentum from one game to the next and to sort of, become more mentally strong as far as being a team that can win, on a more regular basis. I think that kind of, even though I don't think the score indicates the way they played tonight, I think they played better than the score would indicate. I do think that, it's a bit of a step backwards. You would have hoped that they could do a little bit better. So I'm going to get into the questions here. I see there's a lot going on in the questions. Let's do the A team here real first. Does anybody have any thoughts on who they would have picked for their A team? The A team, of course, is who we believe at Recliner Sports, who we believe showed up for the team tonight and who played the best, who brought their game. So here we go. So the A team tonight, we have Emil Heineman. I thought Emil Heineman played well tonight. He scored the first goal for the Canadiens in the third period. He was out there throwing the body around. Again, there's going to be some changes coming in the Montreal Canadiens lineup in the next couple weeks with Laine and Raphael Harvey-Pinard returning, and Heineman is out there making his case to stay in the lineup, and I thought he did a good job of that tonight. Arber Xhekaj, I thought Arber Xhekaj was the best defenseman, for the Canadiens tonight. I thought he played really, really well. I think he got frustrated a little bit at the end of the game there and took an unfortunate penalty. I think he can work on that, but I loved his game tonight. And Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, I think they, in a losing effort, I thought they both were pretty consistent. They had the better part of the expected goals while they were on the ice were in their favor. I think they were both close to 80%, which is impressive, in a 6-2 loss. So again, I have those four guys as my A team. If anybody disagrees, I'm happy to chat about it. But let's get into the questions here real quick. We got a couple questions here from Frank. Where was Kirby all through the first and second period? Giveaway in the third? Yes. Okay. Frank, like everybody else, is going to jump on top of Kirby Dach. Well, tonight they learned a hard lesson, and it doesn't seem like Jeff Gorton was too happy up in the press box. Well, tonight they learned. So Frank also likes to say the same questions twice. Yeah, I didn't happen to see Jeff Gorton in the press box. I don't know whether he was happy. I'm not sure what you mean by they learned a hard lesson. I think what happened tonight is that they made a couple turnovers, and a team like Las Vegas, who is a very, very good team, is going to take advantage of you when you make your turnovers. And they got in a bit of a spin cycle, right? They got into a bit of a situation where they just couldn't sort of get their form back, right? Their form disappeared. They fell apart, and they couldn't bring it back together. It's why I said earlier that I thought that maybe a timeout would have helped. Again, I'm not, big on criticizing Marty St. Louis, but I think that's something he could have done tonight to help out. He could have, maybe, taken, 30 seconds to sort of try and bring them back together, because, one of the things with a young team is when things fall apart, it's hard to adapt and adjust and to bring it back together, right? You're not a professional. You haven't been there before. These are new situations to you. And so when you're Lane Hudson, or when you're Emil Heineman, or when you're Cole Caulfield, and, you're these younger type players, when things fall apart, it's hard for you to bring it back together. So I think that's kind of what happened there tonight. I'm not sure about the hard lesson that you're talking about, Frank. I'm also not going to jump on Kirby Dach's back. I mean, I think that people are doing that enough. But again, Frank, you are demonstrating once again that you're a bit of a fickle fan. You're a guy who sort of when the Canadiens are doing well, you're on here planning the parade, and when they're not doing well, you're ready to burn the whole thing down. So it's probably not that unexpected, but again, I would invite you to try and maybe be a little bit more thoughtful about what you're seeing on the ice, and not just sort of jump to conclusions because you're listening to what the announcers are telling you or what you're seeing on social media. So, Aiden, I think almost every team in the league would get booed after giving up 5 straight goals in a period. Well, again, I think that if you are doing that, I think that you don't understand what's going on the ice. I don't know if I would agree with you that every team would get booed, but certainly the people who understand the game of hockey wouldn't be booing after that. Habs and Doc ain't producing as we expected. How's it going? It's going good, Greg. Thank you for asking. Slav and Doc ain't producing as we expected. I disagree with that. I think Slav is playing just fine. The Habs are in serious trouble. I don't agree with that. I mean, it was a bad game. It was a bad 12-minute period or 12-minute time frame in the second period. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they're in trouble. Doc has been disappointing, but I'm not worried about Slav at all. I'm not either. Slav has played well. I think there's things that he's working on and things that he needs to continue working on. He talked about it in the media a little bit over the past week. He talked about moving his feet a little bit more, and I thought he struggled with that a little bit tonight. There were a couple instances where he kind of got caught a little bit flat-footed, but I don't think he played a terrible game tonight. I think his physical game is coming around. I think they said he had 3 or 4 hits in the first period alone. So again, I'm not worried too much about Slavkovsky. Doc is becoming a bit of a concern. I don't have any doubt that he has the capability to be a better player. He's obviously shown that to us, but it's taking a little bit longer for him to get back there. Got put on the first line. Yes. Well, if the only thing that if you think that the only thing that hockey players do is score goals, Matrix, then I would invite you to maybe start thinking about hockey on a little bit of a broader sense. Slavkovsky is on pace to get more points than he did last year. I believe he has, what does he have? 12 points on the season. I'll check just to be sure, just so I'm not lying to anybody. Juraj Slavkovsky so far this season has 1 goal and 10 assists in 16 games. So he's on pace to do better than he did last year. Yes, he's not scoring goals, but again, hockey players do more than score goals. His production's not ideal. I mean, obviously on the goal scoring side, his production's not ideal, but I think he's doing other things on the ice. He's obviously putting up points. He's got 11 and 16. So again, there's a lot more to his game, and when he's playing his best, it's again, I go back to Cole Caulfield last year, right? Everyone was freaking out because Cole Caulfield didn't have the same number of goals as he has in the past, and everyone was like, oh my God, Cole Caulfield's not scoring goals anymore, blah blah. Well, he was working on things, and we're seeing the results of that now, right? So sometimes you work on other things, and the things that you're really good at struggle a little bit. But then eventually you can come back and bring it all back together, hopefully. But I think that's something you got to keep in mind as well. I swear if I see one more Leafs fan saying Nyes is better than Slav because of 20, well, again, Leafs fans are going to be Leafs fans. There's nothing you can really do about that. I still have the question in my head. This is from James, that should we try and bring up Joshua Roy to the NHL level? Yeah, I mean, it's an idea, James. I think that they're making a conscious decision and a conscious effort to leave him down in the AHL for an extended period of time. I think that the things that they want him to work on aren't things that necessarily are fixed that quickly, and I don't think that they're necessarily focusing on his production as an indication that he's ready to come back. I mean, it's the same thing with Jack Eye last year, right? They sent him down for an extended period of time because they wanted him to work on things. And it wasn't like, oh, we want you to go down there, and then when you're good enough, well, like they sent him down with a purpose. And, it's the same thing with Mayu last year, right? They made a conscious effort to leave Mayu down in the minors for the entire year so that he could, develop and again, it's not just all, physical skills, it's mental skills, right? Like they want you to become confident, they want you to become a leader, they want you to do these things where you can do those on a team where you're your day-to-day becomes more consistent, where you're not sort of jumping up and down from the minors to the NHL team. Hey Hunter, what's going on, man? Mark, how would you build the top six once Laine's back? What would my line? So for me, I said this, a bunch of times. I was on with Coach Frenchie the other day. I'm not a big fan of shuffling lines. I don't see how introducing sort of more confusion to the situation makes things better. I wasn't a big fan of Marty St. Louis shuffling the lines tonight. Right, the team's obviously struggling and trying to sort of recover from this assault by Vegas, and all of a sudden now you're introducing new line mates to everybody, and you're putting you're mixing even more confusion into an already confusing situation. So for me, when Laine comes back, I don't know why they're not. I would have Slavkovsky, Caulfield, and Suzuki back together. I mean, that line, we know that line works. It's worked in the past. I would have them back together. My second line would probably be Doc at center, Newhook, and Laine on the wings. That would be my second line. That would be my top six. And again, I would, if it were me, I would sit Doc down and I would say, Doc, Kirby, you're on this line with these guys, and we're going to give you like 5, 6, 7 games, and we're not messing with you guys. You're going to be together. You're not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. You guys are going to play together for a prolonged period of time. We want you guys to get some chemistry. We want you guys to work together. We want you guys to build on all of this, and because I think that a guy like Kirby Dach isn't benefiting by having different line mates every game or two, right? Like it's not helping him get his confidence back. So I like Dach, but it's starting to look like his injuries have stunted his development. Yeah, they obviously have Aiden, but again, he's shown signs of being back, but he just hasn't been able to turn it all the way back. And I mean, again, I don't think that it's really wise to be prepared to quit on him after 20 games. I don't think that makes any sense. I don't think it's wise to say that he needs to be sent down to the minors. I don't think it's wise to start talking about, oh, we need to send him, a message, right? We have to bench him. We have to do this. We have to, put him, maybe you put him in the press box for a game, but you don't put him in the press box to punish him. You put him in the press box because you want him up there. You put him up in the press box sitting next to one of the assistant coaches and watching the game from above so that the coach can take him through some of the things that he can work on, like they did with Jack-Eye, right? But again, I'm not sure that Kirby Dach's problems have to do with his, inability to adapt to the new systems or to understand, what his his job is or what his responsibilities are on the ice. I think his job at this point, or his problem at this point, is more about confidence, which is why I think that they do need to sort of give him some more consistency as far as line mates are concerned. Yeah, no, I know you're not saying that, Aiden, but again, a lot of people are. And it's again, like, again, I don't know that, like, they talk about the iron fist versus the velvet glove. I think the velvet glove is the approach with Kirby Dach right now that's most likely to success. What did you think of the White Cloud hit on Nyes? If I saw it, I did see it, Hunter, and I thought it was a dirty hit. I thought it deserved a suspension. Much like the Trouba hit, I don't like. Honestly, to me, I think it's worse than the Ryan Reeves hit. Like the Ryan Reeves hit is, Ryan Reeves being a not very good skater and and an awkward guy on the ice who's trying to make a big hit, but because he's awkward, ends up getting his timing wrong and missing and catching Darnell Nurse in the head. Zach Whitecloud, yeah, that's it, right? Zach, I think it's Zach. Anyway, Zach Whitecloud is, the target is the head all along. Does he catch the chest a little bit before he hits the head? Yeah, absolutely. But like I don't get it. Same with the Trouba hit, right? Like these guys they see the hit, they engage, and they complete the hit, and they've got like all the time in the world to get it right, and they don't. And I think they don't intentionally. And unfortunately, the NHL rule allows for what they do. And until the rule changes, you're going to see a lot more guys get hit like that and a lot more guys get injured. And hopefully you're not going to see somebody get seriously injured or killed, because the rule right now, I mean, again, if you want, I mean, I tweeted about it, or I blue skied about it today. If you go check out my blue, like, Quinn Hughes gets kicked out of the game tonight for, just a little tiny shove in the back of a player, and he goes into the boards. And don't get me wrong, that should be penalized. But, the danger of that play versus what, Whitecloud and Trouba are doing, it's not even in the same planet. Hudson was electric tonight. Oh, here we go. Here come the clowns. All right. I think George Peros and the DOPS is horrible. I don't agree with that. I mean, I think he's inconsistent, but he's also working with, I think he's working with some rules that are kind of not doing him any favors. Like, that rule is terribly written. Like, that rule, basically, if you read it, gives you permission and gives you all kinds of justification and excuses for making a headshot, right? Like, it talks about, if the guy puts himself into a position, and like, it's not well written. No, it's not well written if your intention is to limit or to penalize, players for hitting other guys in the head. Don't forget Doc never played a full season. Yeah, again, Doc is struggling, and I would have hoped and would have thought that he'd be back on track by now, just like everybody else. But, again, it's not the end of the world that he isn't, I don't think. Apparently Hughes' hit was an automatic. Was that written in the rules, Aiden? Apparently Hughes' hit was an automatic ejection because it was boarding that caused head-face injury. Okay, I'd have to read the rule to know exactly what that says, Aiden. But again, I would, I have no problem with it being penalized. I have no problem with it being penalized. It was boarding and all of that. And if the rule says that, but again, my issue is with a rule. So let's say that's what the rule does says, Aiden, and I'm not disputing that it doesn't, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But let's say we do have a rule in the NHL that says that if you board a guy and he suffers a head-face injury, you're automatically kicked out of a game. But then we have another rule that says that if you hit a guy in the head and almost decapitate him and put him out of the game, and, he just happens to, bend his knees a little bit right before you hit him, then it's okay. Like, do those two rules seem to make sense? Like, do they seem to jive with one another to you? Right? Like, so to me, like, that's the issue, is like, why do we have a rule that gives all of these outs, all of these justifications, all of these excuses for hitting another player in the head, but yet, like I said, Quinn Hughes does the slightest little tap and knocks a guy off balance, and he, hit. And again, that should be penalized. But again, it's just the rules are just not, not really that smart. Like, I don't get it. I just don't, like, I don't get why they don't change those rules. If the intention is to protect the players and to eliminate headshots and to eliminate concussions and to eliminate, retired hockey players who are killing themselves because of, brain injuries that they suffer, during the course of being hockey players, then they'll change those rules, right? But for whatever reason, that's not. Yeah. So again, if it's in the boarding rule, Aiden, then my question becomes, why is the boarding rule written so strictly and clearly and without much discretion, whereas the rule on illegal head contact is written in such a way as to provide, so many different opportunities for a player to excuse or justify head contact, right? They don't seem to be consistent to me, because frankly, what Quinn Hughes did tonight, one, was not nearly as dangerous as the Whitecloud hit, or the Reeves hit, or the Trouba hit, or even the Cedric Perret hit in the preseason, or the Arbor Jackeye hit in the preseason. Like, and not only was it not as dangerous, but it's far more accidental, far less deliberate and intentional, right? Because the reason that player that Quinn, I don't even remember who it was that Quinn Hughes hit tonight, the reason that player injured himself was because he ended up off balance, Now, that's not his fault. Quinn Hughes obviously should be penalized for it, but again, it's a far less deliberate play than what White Cloud and Trouba did, right? They deliberately delivered hits that they knew were going to injure somebody. That's what we're talking about, Cosmo. We're talking about it right now. The other thing I don't get about those hits is like they literally do nothing to advance the game. Like they don't serve any purpose in the game, right? You know, in Nye's instance, the puck is gone, right? Like you're not making any type of defensive play by hitting him, right? You're not separating a player from the puck. You're not creating a turnover. You're not doing any of that stuff. All that hit is doing is, perhaps, maybe you could say it's creating some momentum or giving your team a lift or a boost or whatever. But that hit serves no hockey. It's not a hockey play. It serves no hockey purpose. Like back in the olden days when I was a kid, we didn't even call it hitting. We called it checking, right? And the reason you checked was as a defensive tactic. Like you checked your player, you checked your opponent, one, to take the puck, to separate them from the puck, or two, to stop them from advancing towards your goal with the puck. Right? Like that's why we used to call it checking. You're checking the guy. You could stick check a guy, you could body check a guy, you could poke check a guy. This was, checking. And somewhere along the line over the years, the word checking turned into hitting. Just like in football, the word tackle turned into hitting, right? NFL players don't tackle anymore, they hit. Right? And that's sort of, that's not good for the game, and it's going to result in, and the rules, go look at the rule book and look up the rule on charging someday. Go look up the rule on charging, read it out loud to yourself and think about it, and then the next time you watch a game, think about how many plays should be called charging if they were applying that rule by the letter. If you're over on TikTok, guys, come on over and join us on YouTube. We're over here having a chat. Come join the conversation. We got a bunch of people in here having a chat. If you do want to ask any questions, if you want to talk about the game, all you got to do is follow the instructions on the screen behind me. It's Recliner Sports 4. Come join us on YouTube. If you are here on the YouTube channel, guys, please subscribe. YouTube tells me that only 35% of you who are viewing the lives are actually subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button if you can. Hit the notification bell. And if you're enjoying the content, hit the little thumbs up. Give us a like. In order to do some of the really fun things on YouTube, you have to have 500 subscribers. We just passed the 100 subscriber mark. It's been about a month and a half, so I'm not upset about that. But I'd love to be able to get to 500 so we can start doing some of the more creative and fun things that you can do on YouTube. So if you're not following yet, whether you're watching this live or watching it in a replay, make sure you go and subscribe. It definitely helps us out, and I would really appreciate it. And it helps us make more content and do more fun stuff. So the fans enjoy the big hits. Okay, well, that's fine. I'm sure the fans enjoy a lot of things. But again, that's not hockey, and it's not, I don't think it's ideal for the game. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I tend to agree with that. MVJ, DJ. Hughes should have got 2 for cross-checking. That's it. I don't disagree with that. Now, yeah, I don't get the inconsistency in the rules and the reluctance the NHL has to, to make these things illegal, or like to come down on these things that are the whole idea behind rules when it comes to sports is to ensure the fairness of the game and to protect the players from injury. Who's my heart race front runner so far this year? I'd say you're probably looking at either Kaprizov or McKinnon off the top of my head. Yeah, there's not very many charging penalties anymore, but again, I invite you to go and read the rule, Adrian. I'm going to go quickly, guys. I'm going to run over and have a look at the scoreboard from tonight's game here. Let's have a quick look at that just so we can go through it. Obviously, no scoring in the first period. I thought the Canadiens played well. I thought they probably were the better team in the first period, even though they were outshot. They certainly held their own with Vegas. Maybe towards the end of the period, they kind of lost it a little bit. But let's have a quick look through the other aspects of the scoreboard. So the shots in the first were 12-6 in favor of Vegas. The high danger scoring chances were 5-3 in favor of Vegas. And the expected goals were 0.9 to 0.6. So everything was pretty even in that first period. The second period obviously was where the wheels fell off. 5 goals from Vegas. Let's go back here. We have Hurdle, Burke, Barbashev, Pearson, and Kolasar scoring goals. The shots on goal in that period were 13-2, very dominant in favor of Vegas. And the high danger scoring chances were 5-3 in favor of Vegas. And the expected goals were 1.4 to 0.1, I believe, in that period. Let's go back here. Let me just check that to make sure I'm right. 0.7, pardon me, 1.4 to 0.7 in that period. And then in the third period, I thought the Canadiens, again, played really relatively well. What's going on here? This eCam is driving me crazy right now. The Canadiens actually had a pretty strong period in the third period. They outshot Vegas 9-3, outchanced them 7-1, and they dominated them in the expected goals as well. So that's our again, not as bad as it would have looked. Again, I thought they were they were definitely the better team in the third period. Now you could probably argue that Vegas maybe took the foot off the gas in that third period as well. I thought they held their own in the first period against one of the better teams in the league. It was just, sort of after that first goal at the 4.5 minute mark of the second period, the wheels just kind of fell off, and that was pretty much the end of it. So other than that sort of 12-minute run in the second period, I thought that the Canadiens did more than hold their own with Vegas tonight. But again, you can't do that against a team like Vegas because they will, make you pay. Kirby Dach's turnover, boom, it's a goal. Uri Slavkovsky tries to make a high-risk play at the offensive blue line. Boom, it's turned over. It's a goal. Alex Newhook blows a tire at the offensive blue line and turns the puck over. Boom, it's a goal on the other end. Right? It's just you can't make mistakes against teams like that because they'll make you pay. Right? And that's part of being a young team and learning how to win in the NHL. How is Dach still on power play 1? Well, I mean he's there because he's on that line. I don't think anybody on the power play is doing particularly well right now. I think they're also trying to spread their power play over 2 different power plays. Could they switch him for Heineman and put him on the second power play? Again, I think they're trying to make sure that they've got 2 decent power plays. So putting all of your best players onto one power play isn't necessarily what they're trying to do right now. I think that the success that their power plays had so far this season, certainly relative to past years, is because they do have 2 good power play lines to put out there as opposed to just one. So the other team can't just focus in on stopping one group. They have to stop 2. So they kind of have to spread their penalty killers out a little bit. So again, I think it's also the reason why they're not sort of jumping to put Lane Hudson on the first power play, despite the clamoring from certain people in the media and the fan base. So did I think Whitecloud left his feet? He didn't. He the impact of the hit may have had him sort of lift up a little bit, but I don't think he he left his feet in the sense that it was a charge. I thought Monty played very well. He had no chance on those goals. Well, that's not true, Frank. I mean, I thought he played very well in the first period. I thought that the first couple goals he had absolutely no chance on. He certainly had a chance, I think, on the fourth goal where there was a soft wrist shot from the blue line and he tried to catch it and he didn't, and he dropped it right onto Keegan Colasar's stick, and Colasar put it in the net. And then I think on the fifth goal, let me see my notes here. What was the fifth goal? Let's see my notes here. Yeah, I mean, sorry, the fifth goal was the Colasar goal. The fourth goal was the Pearson goal. I mean, again, the first three goals, I think you're right. He didn't have much chance on the first three goals. I think the Pearson goal, he could have stopped, but didn't. And of course, I think the Colasar goal, I don't think he had any chance at all on that one. So, Scheifele really showed his true colors in the aftermath of that Evans hit. Tell me about it, Kaylor. I don't remember. I'm not a big Scheifele fan. I mean, if I recall, he was kind of a bit of a jerk about not, obviously he didn't want to be suspended and it was the playoffs. But again, I think he really hurt his team. Am I mad at you, Frank? No, not particularly. Why? Do you think the Leafs are better than you thought going into the season? No, not really. I mean, I think the Leafs are a good hockey team. I have to confess that, I've been focusing very much on the Canadiens of late, and I don't spend nearly as much time, following and watching other teams as I did perhaps last year. So I don't really have a great grasp on what's going on with the Maple Leafs. But again, I mean, I think the Toronto Maple Leafs have a really good team. I just don't think that their roster is constructed for, or properly constructed, or well constructed for, playoff success or sort of long-term, like they're not built to win hard hockey games. They're not built to win, when it's tough. I mean, again, I'm probably not being clear on that. Their issue is that they're too top heavy, right? They're very strong and they're top 3 or 4 guys on forward. But beyond that, their roster is a bit of a mishmash. Now, guys like Matthew Nyes are coming around, and that'll make a difference. And as some of those younger, if Grabenkin can turn into, what he looks like he's capable of being, and Fraser Minton can turn into what he's capable of being, then that might change the picture. But realistically, it's been the role players and the depth players that have been the issue for Toronto, right, or the lack thereof. And obviously defense is, in a similar situation, right? Tanev doesn't look as good as he, did last year. But again, Tanev's the kind of guy who, tends to play better when it counts. So maybe, when the games get a little tighter towards the end of the year or in the playoffs, you'll start seeing a little bit more from him. Ekman Larson, I think, as far as I know, has looked pretty good. But so again, I won't say that I'm surprised by the Leafs that they're any better. I know they're a good hockey team, and they're certainly capable of putting up a lot of wins. So they have 7 forwards on the IR. Okay, I don't know who those would be. I wasn't aware that they had 7 regular forwards on the IR. That seems like a very high number to me. I doubt that they have 7 of their 12 forwards on the IR. It's been a while since I thought about, but essentially never apologize, was quoted saying something along the lines of, I thought Danault was supposed to shut me down, but I guess Okay. Oh, you're quoting Scheifele. Yeah, well, again, emotions were high. I mean, again, Scheifele's never really been the kind of a very likable guy, but my opinion, there isn't anyone on this team that I'm just worried about. Just gotta get. Yeah, I agree, James. Right? I mean, it's the message I've been trying to pass along for some time now. Is it's not about panicking. It's not like this team is going to take time to get it right, and they're working on the mental side of the game. And when you're a young person working on mental anything, it's not something that just it's not something you just pick up overnight. It doesn't just happen right away. And it doesn't happen in a straight line. Sometimes you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And I think that in the last week, the Canadiens took a couple steps forward, and this is definitely a step backwards, right? But it's not a full step backwards, because I think, you know, they did demonstrate at, various aspects or various points of this game that they're capable of playing with Vegas, right? And they demonstrated in the last game that they're capable of playing with Edmonton. So these are two of the better teams in the league, and the hurdle that they need to overcome is the ability to be able to do it regularly and consistently, right? To not have those lapses, when you get scored on, not to sort of, go into a brain freeze or a brain fart where, all of a sudden you forget everything that you've learned for the last 2 years, right? Just because, you made a turnover and they scored a goal, or they scored 2 goals, and all, like, we've seen this all year, right? Where they give up a goal right after they score a goal, or they give up, 2 goals, within 30 seconds or a minute of each other. Like, these are mental lapses that they're suffering. And these are the things that, they're working on cutting out, right? And again, they did that the last 2 games prior to tonight. They did a pretty good job of that. No mental lapses, right? They stayed on their game for the entire game, the full 60 minutes. Well, tonight they didn't. Tonight they played a good first period, a decent first period. They actually looked okay in the beginning of the second period, and then boom, right? It was just like that one turnover and that goal, and all of a sudden the whole world shifted. The whole world turned upside down, and it took them about 12 minutes to figure out what was going on, and to give their head a shake, and by the time they did that, it was 5-0. Yeah, well, I mean, again, the rule, there's a little bit more to the rule than that, Adrian. But yeah, again, I invite everybody to look at it, because it talks about, anyways, I invite you to look at it, because the rule is probably very different than what you think it says. They've been without their stars for a couple games, and their defense has been looking. Shout out Vegas. Okay. Basically, he just tried to shift the focus of the entire situation. Yeah, well, again, that's not unexpected, Kaler. Alex Nylander signed. I did see that today. A 1-day contract? I believe it was a 1-year contract. Zach, was it not? I think it was a 1 year for $800,000 or something like that. Camp, Matthews, Domi. Oh, Domi's out? Okay. I knew Nyes was out. I knew Pacioretty was out. Yarncroke, okay. I like Button from TSN. He said, let's suffer this year. Why? Yeah. I'm sorry, Frank. I feel like I'm always picking on you, but Craig Button's an idiot. Sorry. Craig Button doesn't have any level of finger on the pulse of the Montreal Canadiens. Stop listening to Craig Button when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens. Like if you're gonna if you want to follow guys to know, like, guys who understand the Canadiens, listen to Basu and Godin. They know what they're talking about. They're not perfect, but they're good. Listen to Eric Engels. He's awesome. The 32 Thoughts guys are good. If you're looking for insider information. What's up, Puckhawk? Yeah, who else is good? Tony Marinaro's okay from time to time when he has the right guests on. Mark Dumont is really good. He seems to know what he's talking about. But there's a lot of the national guys. You have to think these national guys are pretending to talk authoritatively about all 32 teams. Like Frank Saravalli, right? He's good, and he's a good insider. He definitely has connections, and he knows what's going on behind the scenes. But as far as like being able to do a deep dive on the Montreal Canadiens, he doesn't follow the Montreal Canadiens like that. Stu Cowan is terrible, Hunter. Stu Cowan might be the worst of them all. Stu Cowan, for the amount of time that he's been doing the job he's doing, and for the amount of access that he has to the Montreal Canadiens, his lack of understanding of what the Montreal Canadiens are doing is astounding. Astounding. Like, unbelievable lack of understanding of what the Montreal Canadiens are all about. Like, no clue whatsoever. Like, he's out there calling for the Canadiens. Oh, the Canadiens need to make a trade, or the Canadiens need to add a top 6 forward, or the Canadiens need to do this. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that you were joking, but he is clueless. So, that's going to be a lot for tonight, guys. Again, I'll show you the report card again, just so we can have another quick look at it. Again, I'm giving them a pass for special teams, engagement, effort, and energy. Pride, I thought that third period showed a lot of pride. They could have easily, packed their tent and shut things down. But they did come back and score a couple goals in that third period. They did, try to bring the game physically to Las Vegas a little bit in that third period. Jesse Blake is terrible too. Yes, he is. Gallagher was good tonight. Doc got some good looks. Gallagher was pretty good tonight. I thought he was okay. I thought Doc struggled. Again, his confidence is beat. And again, I don't think Doc's game was as bad as everybody made it out to be, especially, the broadcast team for TVA. Like, other than that turnover, Doc wasn't terrible tonight, right? I mean, was he good? No, he wasn't great. But, if it wasn't, he made a turnover that directly led to a goal. But, beyond that, he wasn't egregiously bad out there tonight. I thought he was pretty good. Like statistically, anyways, let's have a look here statistically for Doc. He's Kirby Doc. Yeah, not a great statistical night, I guess, but what's his expected goals percentage? So, his expected goals percentage was 60%, 57.9. His Corsi percentage was 55.2. His Fenwick percentage was 52.4. So again, I'm not saying that he had a good game or a great game, but again, not nearly as bad as everybody's making it out to be. And everybody always focuses on that one thing, right? He made a mistake, and it was a big one, and it cost the Canadiens dearly. I'm not excusing that at all. But, there were, 59 minutes and 50 seconds more than that 10 seconds of play. Do I think Montreal in 2020 was a fluke? I don't think you go to the Stanley Cup final as a fluke. No, I don't. I don't believe that. Out of all the broadcast channels, RDS is more attached to the Montreal Canadiens and little of the Ottawa Senators. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that RDS is definitely focused on the Montreal Canadiens more than the Ottawa Senators. I think that's probably an accurate statement. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't know what you mean by attached to them, but yeah, I think that there's more focus on the Canadiens than there is on the Senators. All right, gang, I think that's going to be close to the end. Keep the questions coming if you want, but in the meantime, if you are watching this, whether you're here in the live right now, please subscribe. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers. Like I said, YouTube lets me do a lot of lot more things, I guess. Once I get to 500 subscribers, it lets me do some stuff, some cool stuff, some creative stuff for you guys. If you guys are, ever over on, Coach Frenchie's channel watching his show, you'll see that he gets to do a lot more cool stuff in the comments and whatever. That comes with a certain number of subscribers, and that number is 500. So we've just reached 100. It'd be really nice and helpful if you could, hit the subscribe button and help us get there. YouTube is telling me that, only 35% of you actually are subscribed to the channel of the people who are viewing this. So if you're watching this live, if you're watching it later in a replay, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the thumb up. If you're liking the content, give us a thumbs up. That definitely, all of that helps us. And, we are trying to grow this channel, and I can't grow it by myself. All I can do is come on here and try to give you guys good content, which Maybe I'm doing, maybe I'm not. But if you don't enjoy it, then I guess you don't have to come back. But if you do enjoy it, please give us, give us the benefit of the doubt and hit that subscribe button and help us out. If you're over there on TikTok watching, guys, again, we're moving away from TikTok. We're moving all of our content over to YouTube. That's been a few weeks now that we've done that. Just come on over here, guys. If you want to join the conversation, it's a lot of fun. We have a good time. There's a lot less trolling over here, so it's a lot better conversation. If you enjoy sort of having fun, civil conversations about the Montreal Canadiens and about hockey in general, that's what we're trying to give you. And if that's something you're interested in, then certainly come on over. Like I said, that subscribe button is the key, guys. We really need to get as many subscribers as we can so that we can start moving towards doing some more fun and cool things here on YouTube. I don't think we need any trades. Where you have a good night there, Devin. Like always, good show. Thanks, man. Thank you, Frank. I appreciate it. They still have the same core and can barely win any games. Respectfully, who are you talking about? You're talking about the Canadiens? Yeah, I don't think you follow them very closely. If that's your take, Cosmo. The Canadiens are in a rebuild, and a big part of a rebuild is development, and they work on different aspects of their game, and right now they're struggling with some of the mental aspects of winning hockey games. And so that's what's happening. So as far as you thinking they still have the same core and can barely win any games, I just think that I suspect that you're a fan of another team and you're trying to to troll a little bit. But respectfully to you, I don't think you really understand what the Montreal Canadiens are doing right now, and I don't think you really understand what's going on with the team. So again, first of all, they don't have the same core, and second of all, they are winning games and they are progressing and they are doing certain things better. Has it been a struggle? Absolutely. I'm not gonna pretend that it's not, and I'm not gonna pretend that everything's been perfect and great. It hasn't been. They are working on things, and they're working on things that are, some of them are taking a little bit longer to develop or to come along than a lot of people would have expected. But again, if your take on this team is that they have the same core and they can barely win, then I don't think you really have a grasp on what you're talking about. Most of their posts are mostly on the Canadiens, like line. Well, they're a Montreal-based television station, Adrian, right? So just like TSN is a Toronto-based television station, they're going to focus largely on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and RDS is a Montreal-based television station who has rights to the Montreal Canadiens, right? They don't have the rights to the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know they show a fair number of Ottawa Senators games, but they're not technically, so again, I don't know what you expect them to I don't know what you expect them to do as far as the Ottawa Senators go, but they're not going to provide the same amount of coverage to the Ottawa Senators that they do to the Montreal Canadiens. Just like the Toronto, just like TSN doesn't dedicate the same number of resources to the Edmonton Oilers or the Calgary Flames, or so. Again, I take your point and I agree with it, but I don't know what you mean about it. I don't know what you're expecting from them. All right, gang. I think that's going to be all for tonight. I do appreciate everybody for coming. All of you who showed up in the live and asked questions. We had 78 comments tonight. So I do appreciate that. I'd say we probably had a good crew in here. Do I think the rebuild is kind of failing? Because if you look at your team, it started to rebuild around the same time. No, that's again a demonstration. So in what way did the Canadiens start their rebuild at the same time as Ottawa? Or others? Like, who do you mean by others? Are you talking about Buffalo? Are you talking about Detroit? Like, the Canadiens rebuild has been going on for a little over 2 years. Like, when did Ottawa's rebuild? Brady Tkachuk is in his 6th year in the NHL? let's look at the Brady Tkachuk is currently in his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is Brady Tkachuk's 7th year in the NHL. So how is it that Ottawa and Montreal started their rebuild at the same time? So the answer to your first question is no, I don't think the rebuild is failing. Because the rebuild, I mean, you don't fail until you give up on something or you quit on something. So the rebuild is ongoing. So it's not a failure. What would be a failure is if they decided that they were going to abandon the rebuild and start, trying to build their team around veterans, like some of the other so-called rebuilding teams have done, and sort of launched themselves or sentenced themselves to lengthy periods of mediocrity. The Canadiens rebuild is just a little over 2 years into it. Um, Things are going well. Things are progressing. Their young players are coming to the NHL. They're getting better. Obviously the mental side of the game is something they're working on right now. Learning how to win, how to be professionals, how to be more consistent, how to deal with adversity, how to do all those things. Well, that's not true either, Cosmo. The Canadiens started rebuilding 2 years ago, so not like they're 2 years and whatever amount of time we're into this season. Yeah, Cosmo. Again, I'm happy to entertain your questions, but again, if you're here to troll, I'm not interested in that. And if you're not going to, if you're going to troll on the basis of a lack of information, then I'm not really interested in that either. The Sens rebuild is basically over, but again, the Sens rebuild shouldn't be over because they're not competitive yet, right? Your rebuild doesn't end until you're competitive, and that's the problem with, I think the bigger problem in Ottawa was the lack of management and the lack of coaching, right? They didn't have the right people in place to coach and manage that young group. They have a really strong group of young players, but they just haven't been able to put it together. And to me, that's been due in large part to the fact that they don't have the right sort of leadership, at the coaching and management level. Yeah, again, Cosmo, no, they're not. Again, so I don't know that there's any other rebuild that's on the same time frame as the Canadiens. I mean, you can look at San Jose, Anaheim, and Chicago. They're probably even, the Canadiens are probably a little bit ahead of them time frame wise. Like, I think the Canadiens rebuild, started before those three teams, but I don't think that the Canadiens are, in any, I think their team right now is in a better place than either of those three teams. I would certainly say. What did you say that lacked information? Well, you said that Ottawa and Montreal's rebuild started at the same time. Not even close, like not even remotely close. What else did you say that was incorrect and not factual? Let's go back here. Well, you started by asking if I thought 2020 was a fluke, so I'm not sure where that came from. You said that they have the same core, which they don't. So that was a lack of factual. You weren't factual with that. Didn't have the right information. Do I think the rebuild is failing? You look at other teams that rebuild. So you said that Ottawa and other teams. So like, I don't know what you meant by other teams. Ottawa for sure certainly didn't start at the same time. You said that Ottawa didn't start rebuilding during Brady Tkachuk's rookie year. Well, that's also not accurate. So yeah, that's what I mean. Well, a rebuild ends when you're successful. Your rebuild ends when you meet your goal, right? When you achieve your goal, that's when the rebuild ends, right? When you win the Stanley Cup, right? That's when the rebuild ends. When you become a perennial contender for the Stanley Cup, that's when your rebuild ends. Period. And abandoning it prior to that is a recipe for disaster. That's when a rebuild ends, right? A rebuild doesn't end when like Detroit last year, right? Or the last couple of years. Detroit, well, we're close to the playoffs. Maybe we can go sign a couple veterans, a couple old guys. We'll get them in there and we'll sneak into the playoffs. Well, guess what? They're screwed now, right? Toronto Toronto did really, really well in the draft. They thought they were rebuilding. They did really well in the draft. They got Nylander, they got Marner, they got Matthews. They're like, oh, we're awesome right now. We're great. We're going to stop the rebuild. They didn't really start rebuilding in the first place because they were signing veterans from day one. But they, now we're going to, we're going to start. Well, guess what? You quit your rebuild, and yeah, you're a good hockey team, and yeah, you're in the playoffs every year, but you can't really do much more than that, right? You're stuck. You're stuck now. Right. So you don't, just because you get close doesn't mean, oh, well, now I'm going to get impatient and I'm going to give up on the rebuild. Yeah, and that's probably true, Aiden. I think you and I have talked about that before. But I think there's more to what's going on. They haven't had decent ownership, they haven't had decent management, and they haven't had decent coaching in the last 10 years. And I thought Andlauer would make a difference, and he doesn't seem to be. Hiring Travis Green to be your head coach on a young, young team, like it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's the same. Anaheim. Pat Verbeek and Sean Cronin. Like, you've put these two guys in charge of a rebuild. No wonder the team is getting ready to revolt. Those guys have no business coaching young players. The Chicago Blackhawks, they're supposed to be rebuilding. They can't figure out why things aren't working in Chicago. Well, they went out and signed a bunch of 35-year-olds in the offseason and sent, a bunch of their young prospects to the minors. Did I say Montreal started rebuilding 2 years ago? I did. They started rebuilding when they hired Jeff Gorton and they hired Kent Hughes to be director of hockey operations and general manager. Yes. Sure, why not? Why not winning the cup if that's your goal, Cosmo? Again, what do you mean by contender? Like, if you go to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 years in a row, yeah, you're probably at the point where your rebuild has worked. But again, for me, a rebuild never ends. I don't think you abandon the principles of a rebuild just because you've won the Stanley Cup, right? I don't think you abandon the principles of a rebuild. You don't start saying, okay, well, now we're not going to focus on developing drafting good players and developing good young players, and now we're just going to focus more on just signing old free agents. Like, why would you, like, the philosophies of a rebuild are philosophies that work for NHL teams in perpetuity. They're not like, so is your suggestion that when your rebuild ends, you're going to say, okay, well, the rebuild's ended now. We're not really going to focus too much on drafting guys. We're going to trade all of our draft picks, and we're just going to, we're going to sign a bunch of, free agents and like, no, like, it never ends. Yep. I agree. Crazy Shady. So every rebuild that didn't win the cup is still in a rebuild. No, I didn't say that either, Cosmo. Well, it depends. I mean, again, it depends on how you're defining rebuild, right? Like I said, to me, the principles of a rebuild never go away. Like, I don't think that if the Montreal Canadiens win the Stanley Cup in 4 years from now, I don't think that means that they're going to change their philosophies as far as, everything that they've built, to get to that point. Yeah. I mean, eventually you can be in a rebuild, and you expect to win. I mean, just I don't think that because you're at the stage of the rebuild where, you're always in development. I guess you're always in a development stage, but you can be at the point where you expect to win, but you're still in a rebuild. You're still rebuilding. Anyways, guys, I think I'm going to end things there. It is 20 after 12 here in Halifax. I do appreciate everybody for coming. I do appreciate the chat. I do appreciate the conversation. Thank you very much, everybody who watched the live. Like I said, whether you're watching live or in the replay, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the content. Hit that button. It really does help us. The more views we get, the better. The more subscribers we get, the better. We're trying to get to 500. It's going to be a lot of work to get there, but I'm willing to do it. I'm trying to give you guys good content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. If you are, like I said, subscribe, notification bell, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Tell your friends. if you think that there's other people out there that would enjoy this stuff, send them our way. We did a live on Thursday with Coach Frenchie. Awesome over there, Habs Nation Live. He also does great stuff. Go check him out. Also, it was myself and Enertap on there on Thursday night. We had a great time. So again, Habs After Dark, guys. I'm Devin. This is Recliner Sports. We're on every night when the Montreal Canadiens play. We go live about 15 or so minutes after the game ends, and we have a chat about the game. If that interests you, like I said, come on by. We try and do it. And we try and accommodate all you guys in the comments. Unfortunately, I'm ending the live while more comments are coming in. But again, I can't stay on here all night. I wish I could. But I do have to end it somewhere, and that's where we're going to end it now. Again, 6-2 final. The Vegas Golden Knights defeat the Montreal Canadiens. A bit of a step backwards, I think, after 2 steps forward in the last 2 games. Again, I don't think things were as bad as everyone's making it out to be. I think if you look at the entirety of the game, there are some positives there. I think the score probably makes it look worse than it actually is. But all that to say that it was a bit of a step backwards, unfortunately. We will get back at it after the next game. If you are interested, come on by. Like I said, 15 minutes after the game ends, we will be back on live. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for everything. I appreciate it. I can't be, it kind of blows my mind a little bit that you guys are actually watching this stuff. But I do appreciate it, and I hope you do enjoy it. And we will see you in the very next one. Peace out.
To Hoffman, Monahan parked in front, Doc to Caulfield, fires, scores!
You are about to enter Habs After Dark with Recliner Sports.